Trust me, it won't be too painful. I've only had 2 or 3 guests cry. Can you please say your name for me one more time so I make absolutely sure?
Vikas.
Because you know what it is? Because in my head I got it wrong. So now
Uh-huh.
my brain wants to continue getting it
So,
wrong.
a great way to remember it that someone actually came up for me mnemonic device wise. They were like, "It's the Wizard of Oz." It's like because
I love
Vikas.
that. I
And I'm
love
like,
that.
I am stealing that. And that was like actually Karen O'Brien who did that.
That
I was
is
like,
brilliant because I love that. I
thank
love
you.
that. Okay. Hello, gorgeous people. You know the drill. It's so, oh, I've got some of my dearest friends are back today. It's so nice to see you, Jonathan and Timothy. It's wonderful to have you back. I've got Vikas with us today. I've had a lot of people request him. I know everyone's freaking out about the online APAC. So, um, mostly the important things on people's mind are shoes and dresses if they're going to the event later and what they're going to wear tomorrow. And but tonight we've got very important stuff to talk about, and I'm dying to dive in. And Vikas doesn't know what to expect, so
I don't know
don't
what to
warn
expect.
him. So, so everyone knows if you guys have anything to say or any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat and I will filter it through and I will send, of course, the chat at the end of the call. So most importantly, please can you draw a picture of 10-year-old Vikas for me? What he was thinking, where he was, what his life was like, daily life of 10-year-old Vikas. I like to start you off easy.
So, oh, do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
That's my answer. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking everyone else to draw that, and I'm
Nope.
like,
You.
oh,
You.
draw it, and I'm like going, ooh, that's going to be some pretty interesting
Nope.
artwork that
Just
we're
you.
getting.
Put us in the head of 10-year-old Vikas. What
10-year-old
are your life
Vikas
like?
was 10-year-old Vikas was had just finished going to boarding school in India. Um,
Really? Like
yeah,
uniforms? Did you have uniforms?
yep, uniforms. These really like the milk chocolate brown um pants that we had to wear with these chocolate milk colored shirts
Okay,
and
wait.
a
I have to go
burgundy.
back further. I have to go
Yes,
back further.
yeah.
Where were you born and how old were you when you went to boarding school? Were you in India? Were you somewhere else? I want to hear this
I
story.
was born in Canada, in British Columbia,
Okay.
and when I was 9 years old, um, we moved to India for a year. And in that much during that time, my mother was deservedly concerned about me missing a year. And so she went ahead and enrolled me in a boarding school in a hill station in India, which Panchkani, which a hill station is basically a town on a mountain, and it was an 8 hour bus ride away, and so I was there for and English was the language spoken over there, but of course there was a class in Hindi, but since I was the escapee from Canada, I didn't have to take Hindi. Um,
Were you
and I was
scared? Were you excited?
very terrified,
Really?
terrified,
Did you ask
terrified.
them not to make you go? Did you try to get out of it?
Absolutely. They had an enrollment exam that you had to take, and I was just a very actually he went to my boarding school. Um, sorry, I'm not looking at the time. Someone was said Freddie Mercury went to boarding school in India, and I'm like, Freddie Mercury went to my boarding school, St.
That's
Peter's
so
boarding
cool.
school.
That's actually really cool.
Mhm. And I, of course, did not know that back then. I didn't. Freddie Mercury was not in my consciousness at that point in my life.
Right.
Um, uh, Freddie Mercury was actually like Barces or Austrian, which is what my mother is. So there's also that lovely connection there.
Were they boys and girls or just boys?
Just boys.
Just one
Just
year. Just one
we're
year.
just there for 1 year. And then we moved back
How did it
to
change you? How did it make what about you as a person is different because you did that you
I
wouldn't be now?
independent as all
Yeah.
you can say. Um, suddenly,
Confidence?
to a degree, I mean, it built some confidence, but I think independence was the number one thing because back then I was very reliant on, I mean, I was also a latchkey kid growing up, so there was that sense of independence too. But uh more so when you're like on your own for for months at a time. Um, I think it does it builds. And my mom went to boarding school as well, but her she had her siblings with her, and I was alone. So there was a definite sense of um independence that was built that my parents were then wondering, wait a minute, he doesn't he's not as needy for us. And I'm like, well, gee, shocker there.
Did you make any friends that you kept?
Made friends have not kept, not for any particular reason,
Well, except you were 9. I mean, it's a long
except
time.
I was 9, but it's also um there was no way to keep in touch with people. This is
Yeah.
back in the days before we had the internet and
Yeah.
all that good stuff and ways to keep in touch.
And who could be bothered being a pen pal? You had to actually write a letter.
Yeah. Yeah, we would write letters. We would write letters every they had a specific time set for us to write letters home that we would write. Like it was like it was on the weekend, I think. They had like a set time in the classroom. You would go and you would write letters. You had an hour, you would write your letters, you know.
I always wanted to go to a boarding school. I always thought that'd be so cool. I read too many
There's
books.
in yeah, exactly. Maybe if I'd had Harry Potter
Yeah.
before that, I think there would have been a more of a buy-in. Uh
Jodie Foster, and it was like Candlestone. It's like I'm older than Harry Potter even. Jodie Foster did like a show of Candlestone, I think it was called. And they went off to like a boarding school. That's me. My like point of reference is Jodie Foster.
mine is The Facts of Life.
The facts of life. Oh, yeah, that could
But
be
but
partly.
I didn't but I don't think I discovered did I discover the no, I did know The Facts of Life before that. But it didn't register in my head back then. Oh,
Yeah,
this is The Facts of Life. It was just no, you're in a country that is not your own and you are alone.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of elemental. So what about were you live in the moment, deal with it, or what am I going to do tomorrow person, or were you plan for the future, dreams and goals person, or were you I'm going to be an actor, or what at that age?
Are we talking about at 10 years old?
Yeah,
I wanted to be an actor, but I didn't know how to go about doing that. I was just a performer. I was just a big performer all the time. Um, but back then, I think it was just about living in the moment. It was just creating all the time, living in the moment. Actually, and looking forward to getting to go home because I was just like, as much, it's like, it was one of those things where like, I didn't want to admit that I was liking it there. And I probably would have ended up liking it more.
yeah,
It was just culture shock for me. It was culture shock for me as a Canadian kid who was used to going home and having his parents. But then also there was a culture shock with the discipline. Because at least back then in India, there was corporal punishment. And there was a lot of and you have a bunch of mischievous boys. And so they're going to get yelled at. I was a sensitive kid. I would get very sensitive about hearing people yell at, or even like, you know, do the corporal punishment, perform corporal punishment on them. Um, so that for me was a little challenging and traumatic to deal with, coming from Canada.
But do you know,
But
I think our brains are mapped for home. And I think that, and you do become like a hybrid person. I've lived all over the world, and we grew up Italy, America, but
mm,
I've been in the UK now for like over a decade. I can't even think how long.
oh,
And
wow.
there are still things that get on my tits. There are still things, and I think, really? You can't figure that out still? You're a full grown country. This isn't civilization. I mean, stupid things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if I went to America, it would be a different set of things.
Yeah.
But
There's always
you've lost your home. But there's always something that, like, the
As
world is a stew.
Rosanna Dana said, it's always something.
Always something. They don't have bloody eggnog in this country.
No,
No, ridiculous. Not the kind of eggnog you get in the grocery store in November, the cold stuff.
no.
They don't have
Oh,
it.
you know what? But you know what? That's also kind of good because the stuff that's in the grocery stores is like pumped full of
I
chemicals and
don't
stuff.
care. It's tradition. I'm very resentful and bitter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
So
I get it.
this touches on something that I want to get to, and I think this call, and I might
Mm,
be wrong. You might not be this guy, but I think you are this guy. And I think
okay,
this call is the perfect call for tonight
okay.
because I'm in a grand mood, and
Mm,
it ties. I swear there's a point. This isn't the About Me show, but there is a good point.
yes.
I have recently taken control of my career, and I have been narrating books that I love with all my heart and soul. And I'm doing one today, and you know that moment of flow where you tap into joy. And the thought occurred to me, and I don't say it because it sounds precious. I've had actors come on going, "Oh, I don't want to sound like that actor." But the thing is I am that actor. My mother told me when I was a little girl, "Oh, honey, you're so naive," right? Because she hated that about me, but I believe it. The
Mhm,
writer, they dream about this crap their entire life. They're sitting down, they're finally getting guts. They're
mhm,
pouring their soul into creating magic. They're trusting us. And recently, I've had a few moments where I hit that flow, and it's never to me if I don't care about the reviews. I care about letting the writer hear it the way
mhm,
I know. I just know it's that I'm connecting with another human being that has created magic, and we're doing it together, and there's something literally real. And I had somebody tell me when I was having a conversation along these lines, Jim Siebert, he won't mind me quoting him. He might, but it's too late.
oh,
He
Jim.
went to a class, and he said that he never, that it like changed his life basically, that you were teaching, and that you taught, I can't remember the specifics, something about like feeling joy or playing, discover, and they taught us this in clowning when I
Oh,
trained as a
oh,
clown.
a
Yeah,
workshop in archetypes,
yes,
character
yes.
building archetypes.
And I
Yeah.
want to hear more about that because that is the feeling. They tried to teach me this in clowning, but I was so uptight and type A that I think I've had my whole life as an actor, that fear of myself, that fear of not being good enough, of being a bad, God forbid, a bad actor. And I don't know many actors that don't have it. And I'm touching it where I'm going beyond it. And it's happened a lot, I think, because of the type of work I've been doing recently. Because I've been seeking out kindred spirits and
Yeah.
finding them. And I want to hear about the archetypes because the way Jim said it was like, yeah, it sparked something. And I think it's partly why everyone loves you so much.
Well, thank you, first of all, and thank you, Jim. So the archetypes are it's a system of character plays a role in character creation that I have been working with and continue to work with now. It's been over about 25 years that I've
Wow.
been going back and forth, and it's work that I've applied into whenever I've been doing theater, um, and character building and character creation. Character creation is one of my that's one of my jams. I love it. I love the analysis and breaking down. And so it's just one of the tools. And it is a system of that allows you to, it's kind of esoteric, it's kind of metaphysical, it's whatever you want it to be, but I speak about attempting to channel characters whenever I'm working, and not in that, I really, really want to make it very clear, not in that
Daniel Day-Lewis.
the
Oh,
bastardized
yeah.
method
Yeah.
that we're seeing where it becomes unsafe. Um, it's about just being able to connect and release and not focus so much on what you are doing at the moment, if that makes sense, on an
Yes.
analytical sense. And it's something that I've dealt with. I still to this day, it's an ongoing, because I'm very type A. I'm very much in my head. My undergrad theater career was all about being told ad nauseum, you're in your head, you're in your head, you're in your head, get out of your head, get out of your head, get out of your head. And I'm like, how am I supposed to, give me something here. And one thing, we had to take one class, and it was taught by a wonderful woman named Dr. Deborah Welsh. And at one point, she introduced us to this concept of archetypes. And that made me go, oh, there's a different way to approach the work.
Ooh. Okay. I
There's a
don't want you
different
to
way.
have to give away all your good secrets, but
It's not, no, no. This is a different way to approach it. And it can work. It may not work. It may be good for this. It may not be. But it was something that got me, it was the spark for me that I continued exploring. And
and
that
if
I'm
you're
continuing.
approaching it in a different way, do you not think that the trick of that is, even if it doesn't work for you, it's getting you out of the ego, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because especially if you're type A, that's a
Mm-hmm.
kiss of death.
Mm-hmm.
When people
Mm-hmm.
start talking dialects and analyzing every sentence, and I'm thinking, I have to go in there, how the hell am I going to act?
We don't have that. But also as audiobook narrators, we don't have time when it comes to an accent. We cannot break down every single sentence. I mean, if you've got a line or two, that's one thing. But if your character has multiple lines, it's not like a show or a movie where we have the time, but also where we also have a finite amount of lines. This, along with the other work then that we've got to do, and then the switching back and forth. So that in itself is something different, and it's about trying to find your method, which I've had to learn and come to terms that I cannot do the thing where I break it down the traditional way. I've had to come to terms with accepting and learning that I learn things differently, and that's fine. It doesn't have to go according to what this one professor or teacher says, which is why now, as a professor, I really emphasize everything I'm teaching you. I want you to just explore it to the best of your ability and just give it a try. It
And
doesn't have to
think
be
for
perfect.
yourself, decide for yourself. And you
Mm-hmm.
know why I think that's so smart? Because that's why I'm finding joy. Because that critical, you're not doing it right. Do it this way is out of my head. I'm just doing it. I'm just love because I always thought, and I still feel this way, that if it's fun, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Oh, the old school mentality of, oh, it's work. Work is, you're not supposed to enjoy work. I was still remember back in high school, whenever I wanted to go get a job, I was being told, uh, you need to get a job. And I'm like, okay, yeah, fine. I'll go get a job at the bookstore. And I'd be told, why don't get a job at a bookstore? You're going to enjoy it too much. You're going to get fired because you'll be too busy reading the books and not actually shelving the books. And I'm like, well, where am I supposed to work? It's
And
it's
it
it,
doesn't fit, does it? I worked at the corporate companies. I still rocked up in faux fur. I started getting more spangly and, glittery by the day. They hated me. You can't do it. You can't do
yeah.
it if it's not. Okay, so tell me more. Tell me more. I digress. Sorry. I want to hear
Oh no. Uh,
archetypes.
yeah. So we just so that's the basic. It's the basic idea that it goes a lot deeper in everything, but it does involve movement. It does involve exploration through the body and the physical and then the voice and then uh starting with the elemental archetypes, what I refer to as the elemental archetypes, um which are made up in, you're going to find one or two of these as almost like a primary archetype that's a backbone, and then you can layer on a secondary archetype where you can start jumping right to the secondary archetype, which are some of the more fun ones out there.
Do you
It's
teach a
when
class? Do you teach a class we could sign up for? Is there a book we can
I'm
buy?
I'm not yet. The book has been, it's being worked on. Talk about things coalescing and colliding. I'm getting actually I'm getting lobbed the balls from numerous angles, basically saying, okay, you gotta put your feet to the fire here, and you gotta actually finish this thing that you started.
Why
Uh,
what's the holdup? Why is it not
uh, Work,
okay?
the good old, the imposter syndrome, or as I refer to them as like the MFDs, the mindfuck demons, and there's always something, but it's like, okay, all right, you gotta.
You do, your
uh,
audience is kind of wanting it. We need it. I'll be a
yeah,
beta reader if you need any.
wonderful.
Yeah, because I'm fascinated. I want to hear more. I want to learn it. And also do the audiobook, please, because I don't have time to actually. Okay.
Oh yeah, hopefully there's a lot. It's like, and I tend to spin, so it's like, okay, so it's like, oh, but this would be cool. Okay, yeah, but then and then it's like, why don't you sit at the computer and actually stop self-editing and actually just do it. So
What do you
yeah,
do about the what you call the your mind
the
fuck?
MFDs.
I've got the itty bitty shitty committee in my head. What do you do? What do you do with yours?
The IBSC. That makes sense. That makes sense. IBSC. Um,
How do you deal with yours?
well, it varies. Um, Sometimes it's jumping onto another activity. Sometimes it's, you got your support, you got your support, friends. Uh, free
What's
flow,
easier?
free
I'm
flow,
gonna I'm gonna
free flow
interrupt you
pages.
again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a Gemini. I'm incapable of keeping a train of thought for more than 3 minutes. What is easier for you? Acting on stage, acting in film, narrating. Where do you find your home the easiest? And where
Well,
are you
at the
challenged?
present moment, it's definitely narration because I've been doing that nonstop. After, but the stage is, that's home. That's where
Yeah,
I've always been.
yeah.
I do miss the stage, but there are there's just numerous factors that keep me from being able to go back, and I want to. I mean, I like film as well. I've lately I've lately just been it's that time element. It's that, okay, what am I it's the waiting around. I think that's what I'm loving about narration, that we're like, okay, there's no real waiting around.
You
There's
can
your,
just be
you get
busy
something,
all
you're
the
going.
time.
Yeah.
And you feel kind of like, do you not feel kind of like when anyone asks you to do any like life stuff, you're like, sorry, I'm busy. Like it's way more important than like anything. But I saw your reel, right? By the way, you're
Which
really,
one?
really good. I saw your reel
Oh,
on I am
oh
looking,
crap.
yeah.
That's still up there.
No, I love it. I love it. You're versatile. There's I didn't watch too much because there's a horror film as well. It looked like a lot
Oh
of fun,
yeah.
but it was like also looked kind of gruesome. So
Oh yeah, it's really, but what's great about that one is that was all those were practical effects. And it was
yeah,
so much fun to do that. Yeah, because there's no computer graphics whatsoever in that. It's all these guys, they were like hard, it's like
that is
blood.
hardcore if that was just no, yeah. But it was well done. It was well done. It was well
Yeah,
done. It looked well done.
yeah, it
You
was. I
know?
was very impressed. It was a lot of fun to work with them.
Yeah, it was well done. You can see when something's done with quality. I don't care what the genre is, whether it's my genre or another genre. If something's done with quality, it shows.
And love and dedication.
Yeah,
They were very dedicated um to what they were doing. This is, throw shout out Bad Blood the movie, which I don't get a cent of if you ever play it. So that's my push for it as
seriously,
in
guys, if you're horror fans, check it out. And I'll actually find the link and I'll put the link in the about section of this if you guys want to see it. It was quite good. It was quite interesting. I I normally don't do any research on people before I interview them because I want to find out about you at the same time these guys find out about you. But I was curious because your name keeps coming up. And are you like a party animal? I mean, do you go to every single networking event and like do a lot of kissing and hugging? Why does everyone love you so much, do you think?
I don't. Oh my God, I'm really feeling put on the spot now. Uh, uh, I I'm a social creature. I'm definitely a good mix of the introvert and the extrovert. Um, but I think because we're so introverted and we're in here so much, it's fun to be able to get out there
Yeah,
and see everyone and feel the love and give the love and express it and catch up and uh yeah, I just what is funny is though I won't be able to. We've got our APA social, and I won't be able to go to that this Sunday because of another event that I have. But it's like I'll see everyone at the Audis. Um, but yeah, I just love seeing everyone.
so do you, in your path through life, I mean, it's possible you've had a completely charmed path and gone from point A to point B and everything worked out wonderfully. But if you haven't, can you tell us about the time when you weren't sure, when
Oh
you weren't
God,
sure where it was going to go, where you
all
were
of it.
going to go, how you were going to do it, and how you got to the other side of that? Was it just things took
They're
over, or
very much. There have been so many times of not this is not going to happen. Oh my God, the dark times. Um, as an actor, it's always when I left when I left undergrad, um, and I really want to make sure this is very clear. I loved my undergrad experience, even though I was not one of the golden students there. And even though there was a lot of strife and there was a lot of pain for me in the department, um, because of a disconnecting with a lot of the pedagogy that the teachers had, and they didn't know how to work with me. But also at the same time, I was in a very, very vulnerable spot for numerous personal reasons. Um, and there was a lot of like mental health and emotional health that I was having to work through, which affected my work in the so it was kind of both ways.
but they
Um,
talk about these programs, and it's not that you're not alone in that.
yeah.
That's
But
a
I but
lot
I
of
but I
people's
but I
experience.
but I also want to make it very, very clear that I'm not someone who's going, you know, you all were horrible to me so much
No,
that
no, no. It doesn't sound like you're doing that at all. It doesn't sound
yeah,
like you're doing that at all. I think it's the classic
yeah,
different puzzle pieces fit different puzzles,
Yeah.
and certain programs are set up in a certain, a certain way. And
Yeah. And I'm grateful for the knowledge that I had. But the point is, by the very end, um, I'm grateful for the education that I had and for what I learned and everything like that. But by the end of that program, I was a little disheartened at what my prospects could be. And so when I went back home, at this point to Dallas, Texas, which is where my parents were, um, I'd kind of in my head kind of said, maybe acting's not for me. I don't think
how old would you say you were at this time?
21, 22, something like that. And I was like, hmm. And then I got an audition notice for 12th Night, no, The Tempest from a local professional theater. And so I was like, someone had sent it to me from that I knew. I was like, okay, let's go.
And you
And I
look
ended up
back, you asked a question, the universe answered. I don't care what religion you are.
exactly. And I got cast as Ariel. And this fairy sprite and everything. And that kind of kicked it off again, where I was like, okay, the love happened and that was there. Moving here and going to grad school um at UCLA, wonderful experience. Completely different place, of course. I was much older, different sense of self. But upon graduation, there was still a slump, and there was this and couldn't get work, not only just acting, but even like with skills that I had before. I was like as a teacher, as a professor, I was on
and,
faculty,
and in
but I
LA,
couldn't
you
teach
were in
class.
LA.
But I was in LA.
And there's
And
something special about being broke in LA, isn't there? You've got Jimmy
oh
the
yeah.
crack addict on the corner, and
Yep.
you've got everyone in their Ferrari wanting to live the good life in your face 24 hours a day and
Mhm.
judging you on
Yep.
what money you've got and who you are and what you're doing.
And so I had that I had that slump there too. And how I had to get out of it by first not trying to fight it. Um, I couldn't fight the feelings that I was experiencing.
Mm.
Um, because I think by trying to fight it, it was like a boa constrictor kind of constricting me further. And it was at that point I was also always trying to find ways. Excuse me. I was always trying to find ways to not get out of it, but to move through it, move past it. And at that point, that's when Audible showed up at UCLA doing a workshop.
Oh,
And and it was one of those things where I was like, okay. And something I didn't speak to is when I was in undergrad at Syracuse, I actually did my like two audiobooks then, the first two, but it was part of a full cast audio and it was
do you
through
remember your first one? Do you remember
oh
the
yeah,
name?
Bruce. Yeah. It was Bruce Koval's um Bruce, Bruce Koval, the children's author. And he had I cannot believe I'm revealing this one, but Bruce is proud, even though I've talked endlessly down about it, about my work in it. He had a piece called Jennifer Murdley's Toad, and it was part of his Magic Shop books, and it was a full cast. And I read the book, and before they had the auditions, and I was like, "There's no part in here for me that I could really play." But you know what? I kind of want to play this character called the woman who slash the witch, who is this gorgeous, beautiful woman, and then she ends up she turns into a horrible, scary witch. And I asked him that in the audition, can I do this? Okay. Okay. I think it was because I was inspired by the class that we had taken before, where I was introduced to the concept of archetypes, that I was like, ooh, let me try this. And I got the role.
Because you followed
And
the feeling, because you followed the ooh, that
yeah,
ooh, that looks like fun. That's the feeling. I want that.
and
Everything now.
and so and so I did this, um and afterwards I got cast in his production of the Dragon Slayers a couple years later. So those were the two that I did, and they were both full cast audios. And the funny thing is, years later, not years later, I think a year later, I found a review of it in School Library Journal, and the reviewer singled me out as unconvincing on this. It wasn't very good.
Do you read
And I
your
was like,
reviews?
not always. Not gonna lie and say I don't.
Do you know I quit theater for 5 years because this big critic came in London and
Mhm.
I was in Madame Melville and I was the obnoxious American neighbor. He said I had the worst American accent he'd ever heard and that I was obnoxious and he couldn't stand listening to me. And and that every time I opened my mouth, I brought down the rest of the cast, and I should never be allowed around real actors again. I quit theater for 5 years.
Oh, you know, I was what, 22, 23, and I decided to put on my first production, production company wise, and there was this script that I was just like, oh, it's the best. Oh, and really, I just wanted to play the lead role, and oh, I wanted to do this innovative, crazy thing, and I had a real lesson about working with people, where I was like, oh, I'm producing, I'm directing, and I'm acting in this, and then I had to trust everybody, and it was just, and we got the worst reviews for this show, um, and I had people tell me, it's because you took on too much. You tried to act, you tried to direct, and you tried
Yeah.
to produce this thing.
You tried to
So,
type A it.
so the next year, I went ahead and I decided, let me do another show. Um, so I made it small. I streamlined it, but I chose to say fuck you, and I produced it, directed it, acted in it, designed the sets, and designed the costumes and the lights. And we got great reviews. It was streamlined. It was very different, of course. It was also a significantly stronger script. Let's just start that way. So it's the falls have been humbling. The falls have been, I'm always trying to ask myself, what do I learn? Even the ones that don't work out. You were speaking about earlier about, if you something along the lines of, if you follow what you're feeling, and um I've always felt that if I do my best, if I follow my follow my heart, follow my gut, follow my instinct, whatever it is, and I'm like, this is how it has to be, whether it's for an audition, whether it's for a role or whatnot. And if I truly believe that's the best way to do it, and I wouldn't change anything about it, then if someone else doesn't like it, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, the
I'm
rest.
I'm pleased. It's like, am I open to changing it? Absolutely. But it's mainly like, if I'm auditioning. Um, if if what the one thing that is frustrating for me, and this is the life of the actor. Oh God, this hair's just
Your
um
hair looks fabulous, and it's also
guys just
very
drive me nuts.
actorly. It's very actorly that you're
Uh,
the hand gestures. I'm Italian. You're not an actor if you're not. But can I address something not to catch
please.
you off guard? Um, Two things. The reviews. I mean, I haven't read my reviews. I have somebody that reads them for me and I read theirs. And if there's something we need to know, we tell each other. I know myself. I don't, I'll be like a crazy person if I do
Yep.
that high low. But there was one, a multicast recently. It's like, I think they're up to like 300 something reviews. now, and most of them didn't even think the narrators. They like were, which I think to me is high praise. But then the ones that did singled me out, and they either singled me out with wonderful words or I hate her. It's never anything like constructive. I just hate her. And I'm sure of those 300, I stopped reading after, but I found one review that said that I was like the woman in White Lotus, and the one with, and that, because my character went crazy, and I was like, that was the highest. So I've pasted that review, and it's the only review I'm now ever going to remember of any work I've ever done. That's it for me. I'm done. The rest of you, it's,
But
I
it
think
is.
let's choose what we think about ourselves. I spent my whole life letting other people tell me I was too fat, too this, too loud. And now I'm gonna like paint my own picture and live in my house with all my stuff and dress up in my outfits and be like Miss Havisham in her wedding dress. Do you know?
That would be a fun role to play. That would be a fun role to play.
Oh
Um,
yeah, really, it would, wouldn't it?
I when it comes to reviews, I've if I'm really proud of the work, and if I take a look at the reviews, it's just to see, oh, are people enjoying? Are they are they enjoying it? Are they hearing or seeing what I saw? If it's something that I just wasn't 100% pleased about, or if I'm vulnerable about it, I won't read it.
Yeah, see,
So,
people don't ever say, "Oh, she sounds like this about me." They just hate me. I hate her. They just say it. I don't like her. It hurts my feelings. So, Kim has a
going
question.
well, going really quick, going back to the voices thing though,
Oh, yes.
going back to that though, it's like I'm it's funny to be able to see how it's like there are so many reviews that they'll be like, what, 9 out of 10 reviews will be complimentary towards my approach to female voices. But then of course there will be that one review that'll be like, his female voices are horrendous. They are terrible. How could, and it's like my choice whether it's like, am I going to hold on to that or not?
Or
No.
just frame the nice ones.
Or just look and see like, oh, okay, thank you. It's I don't need I
Validation.
Yeah, I take it back. I don't. It's not about not needing the validation because we're actors. We do want to. It's the stage thing that the reviews I think are the closest to any kind of interaction we get with an audience. We don't get that audience because we're behind the mic. It's released. It's released out to the world. I think that's why there's such a need, or a
For every
curiosity.
for everyone to do burlesque, because burlesque, you've got the audience.
Mhm,
You've got to do
mhm,
burlesque someday. There's boylesque. Everyone should do burlesque,
mhm.
or compare it, or
I
just watch
have.
comedy. And what it's
I
right.
have. I did it in a show.
It's electric, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's you've got that interaction. You're in no doubt at the end of a burlesque show.
Mhm.
I think it's probably the same with comedy. You're in no doubt whether they liked you or not, because it's that kind of. Now we've got a very important question that kind of fits in here
Yes.
from Kim. What was the weirdest thing you ever experienced live on stage?
Hmm. Um, oh my God. So many. Um, Weirdest thing I've experienced live on stage, and I think this is about I was part of a children's theater at one point, one of the many jobs I had. I was part of a children's troupe, like a professional touring troupe. And we were we were doing a production of Anansi, and I was stage manager, so I'd be running lines. I was a Nancy and I'd run off stage and I'd be running. It was truly the most like you're doing thing. And our narrator um was our narrator did not make it that morning for very, very personal reasons. And there were uh very, very legitimate reasons, but we didn't know what was going on. And so literally 5 minutes before, we've got these kids coming to the theater.
Wow.
We had to figure out amongst ourselves, what are we gonna do? Am I narrating? I took on the narration. Um, oh God, that's really not a weird thing. I'm sorry. That's more of one of those theater stories. What do you mean by weird thing?
Oh, she's gone easy on you. You
I'm
should hear
like,
some of the
what do
ones
you
she
mean?
didn't have. Have you ever
Really loved a woman?
no, have you ever frozen or
Oh
like
yeah.
had a moment of panic on stage or
Oh God, yeah.
lost your
Yeah.
lines or
Oh, so when I was in high school, I was at a magnet high school, and one of the things we did was in directing. We had a directing class, and in that directing class, you would put on every 2 weeks would be a new cycle. And so one of us was the director, and we had a show that we would already pick, and we'd be putting on like a 40-minute, 50-minute version of it every 2 weeks, in addition to your classes, in addition to everything else. And I there was one piece. Um, this is part of growing up. It's like put off learning all the lines. And it was a 3-person show, and I tried to learn all my lines like the night before, and I uh and so did the other cast member, and she had oh God, this is so embarrassing. She had a line where she was supposed to say something along the lines of, "No, you're home masturbating incessantly over pictures of your father. Don't ask me. I just that's the line."
I think we've
And
covered the experience, the weirdest thing.
she didn't remember that line. She didn't remember that line, and I'm like going in my head. I'm going, how do you not remember that line for that line of all things? And I remember her just going, there's like all this blank silence, and she's like, and she just goes, and I hear her just go, and I'm like trying to signal her, and I kind of go into a charades kind of thing, and I'm like going, this is ridiculous. I'm trying to charades this thing, and I'm like looking up at the light booth. My best friend at the time was in the booth running lights, and I'm like looking up to him. Cut the lights, cut the lights. He is too busy laughing with our teacher. So I just fed her the line.
I think you've covered what was the weirdest thing you ever experienced.
Being in a show with that line in it.
Isn't that's a great thing about audiobooks? We get to cheat. Like literally we get the script in front of us.
It's
You know what I
amazing.
mean? It's like
I
heaven.
well, I tell my students, um, as an audiobook narrator, I can cold read now for like I'm given a script for anything on camera. If I want to do that, I'm like, give it. I can cold
Yeah,
read this.
yeah, me too.
It's
And
like
like
you
have them in tears. You do enough books. I had a director, an old elderly Greek director, famous in London, amazing, amazing, but he's been around a long time. He knows his ways. And I came on last minute as a lead 2 weeks before production. They'd lost their lead, and I fractured my
no.
hand had to be put back on. I had an accident and I fractured my hand. So I'm in a crutch on stage and I don't know my lines because there are a lot of lines. It was like nonstop. And I was panicked because I'm so type A, but there was nothing. I'm on like drugs because of this fracture. And he made me get up anyway And he kept saying, act the feeling, act the argument, act the with no, I didn't. I'm like, I don't know my lines. I can't, everyone else did. And somehow magically they sunk in. I mean, obviously I spent every single second trying, but I've never experienced, I still don't understand why it worked, but it's something you said earlier in the call about finding another way in. It
Yeah.
was that teacher taught you. I think maybe by doing that, I don't know, but it was magical.
Yeah. It's like I think about we all have this idea of what you're supposed to. I mean, I think we have a completely romanticized view of like what the greats do. Like I'm always curious as to what's Meryl Streep's process like. What are what Tom Hanks, and it's like the rehearsal. We see the result. But I have to tell myself I know that it's not just coming like that to Meryl Streep as well at certain points with certain characters. She's having to work, she's finding the blocks and having to find a way around them or over them. Um, because I think that through those challenges and those obstacles, we do grow.
Yeah,
And
Bukowski wouldn't have been Bukowski if he was just a happy, cheerful guy.
yeah.
He was Bukowski because he was like crazy, bitter, pissed off, resentful, and drunk all the time. That's why we love him. Okay, I have literally got, we've got to end this call in 3 minutes. So I'm going to hit you with the last question.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
If you want the YouTube audience for the next 60 years to take anything at all, even if it's one sentence, one piece of advice, anything at all from this call that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives, if they can remember anything at all, what would you like to leave them with?
Trust trust your unique higher self to guide you where you need to go. Um, I mean, your path is yours. That's such a standard thing, but it's so true. Um, your path is your own, and it's not going to look like anybody else's. And you've got to honor and respect that, and enjoy it.
Yeah, grab the fun, huh? Yeah, I love that. I knew this was the perfect call for tonight. And I knew we've had people asking me to have you as a guest for ages. I can't even tell you how long. Yeah, seriously, it's
Hey, and thank you for continuing. I know we've tried it a couple times and then we've had to cancel, and I appreciate you continuing to reach out. It really does mean a lot. So
oh yeah,
thank you.
no, I'm stalking you because I knew you'd be an audience pleaser. So they're all very happy to have you, and I've heard great things about you, and I knew I wouldn't be disappointed. And that's what we needed, just a call focused around pure joy, and you delivered in spades. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And your book, write it. We're waiting.
Too. I need to
Okay.
write that.
Okay. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Mwah! Thanks for joining. Bye, Vikas. Bye. Bye.